All right, today we're heading down to the coast of Belize, to this absolutely stunning sliver of land, to unpack the story of a community that literally decided to write its own future. Let's get into it. I mean, just look at this place. The Placencia Peninsula it's almost impossibly beautiful. You've got the calm, dark waters of the lagoon on one side, and then the brilliant turquoise of the Caribbean Sea on the other. It's so easy to see why people consider it a jewel of Central America. And that unique geography, well, that's exactly what makes it so desirable, but also so incredibly fragile. So that brings us to the big question at the heart of this whole thing. When outside forces start seeing your home not as a community, but as a commodity, what do? What happens when the very thing that makes your home special is threatened by what some people call development? Well, the people of Placencia found themselves at this very crossroads, and their story really kicks off with a single massive threat that got the entire peninsula fired up. So picture this. It's 2010, and a foreign developer shows up with a plan, a big one, to turn the quaint Placencia Village into a major port for huge cruise ships. Now, for a lot of the residents, this wasn't development. It felt more like an invasion. It was a vision of mass tourism that was just completely at odds with the whole vibe of the peninsula.
Now, what's really fascinating is what happened next. A group of citizens, they successfully resisted the proposal, which is amazing in itself. But they didn't just stop there and pat themselves on the back. They realized that just saying no to this one project, it wasn't going to be enough. More would come. So they totally flipped the script. Instead of just fighting what they were against, they decided to get together and define what they were actually for.
And to really get how incredible that next step was, you've got to understand that the peninsula isn't just one big happy family. It's actually a collection of very different communities, each with its own history, its own culture, and its own economic reality. Way down at the southern tip, you've got Placencia Village. It's got these deep roots as a Creole fishing community, kind of the historic heart of the peninsula, which has now also become the main hub for tourism. Then, in the middle, there's Seine Bight. This is a proudly Garifuna community, super rich in culture and tradition, but it's also facing the biggest economic challenges on the whole peninsula. And then up north, you have the Maya Beach and plantation areas. This part is a lot more suburban, and it's mostly home to more well-off expats from the US, Canada, and Europe who decided to make this paradise their home. So yeah, you've got three very different worlds all packed onto one 16-mile strip of sand. So the million-dollar question is, how on earth do you get these three totally different groups with different backgrounds, different cultures, different bank accounts to agree on a single vision for the future? Well, you don't dictate it from the top, that's for sure. You build it from the ground up. And that's really the core philosophy of this whole Peninsula 2020 initiative. This wasn't about a few powerful people in a boardroom making decisions for everybody else. No way. This was about making sure every single voice could be heard, from fishermen to hotel owners, from Garifuna elders to American retirees. And believe me, this wasn't just a few friendly chats over coffee. It was a serious 6-month process using real social science. They did these deep dive interviews with community leaders. They held focus groups to get into the weeds on specific issues. They opened the floor in public meetings, and they even ran a random sample survey based on census data just to make sure the results were legit and truly representative. So, after all that work, what did they find out? What did the people of Placencia actually want for their home? Well, the results they were really powerful, and in some ways, pretty surprising. So here's the first major takeaway, and it's a big one. Despite all those deep cultural and economic divides we talked about, the vision for the future was remarkably consistent across all three communities. When it came to the big picture stuff, what they valued, what they wanted to protect, they were all basically speaking with one voice. And what was that one voice saying, loud and clear? More, local, control. That was it. That was the single most important theme that just kept coming up over and over again. People wanted a real say in the decisions that were affecting their lives, their jobs, their environment. They were done with having their future dictated by developers or politicians from far away. And to get more specific, the community started asking some really tough questions. Like, they'd see this boom in construction and tourism, but they felt completely left out. A lot of folks believed employers would rather hire workers from off the peninsula who were seen as easier to control. It led to this feeling that locals were being passed over for jobs right in their own backyard. But here's the thing, they didn't just complain about it, they came up with actual concrete solutions. They called for way better job training, for real apprenticeship programs to build up skills, and they had this bold idea to establish a national tourism training institute right there on the peninsula to help their own people compete for the best jobs in the business. Another huge issue was money, specifically access to it. Local entrepreneurs kept finding themselves unable to compete with foreign investors because they just couldn't get affordable loans. I mean, some were paying interest rates as high as 24%. Can you imagine? They felt trapped in this cycle of debt, while better financed foreign businesses were just thriving.
And again, they didn't just throw their hands up. They came up with clear, actionable ideas. They demanded truth in lending laws so banking would be more transparent. They wanted to promote credit unions as a real alternative to the big banks, and they recognized the need for basic financial literacy education to empower families and small business owners. Just brilliant practical solutions.
So the community pulls together and creates this incredible document, this shared vision. But what does it actually do? What's its real power? Let's take a look at how this plan becomes a powerful statement for the future. Okay, this part is key. The Peninsula 2020 report. It's not a law. You can't sue someone for violating it. Its power is moral. It's directional. Think of it like a roadmap, a clear declaration of intent from the people who actually live there that they can hand to anyone, government, private developers, you name it, who wants to have a hand in shaping their future. The report itself sums up its own power with this just incredible metaphor. It says it's like a giant billboard at the entrance to the peninsula, and on it says, "Welcome to Placencia. We're happy to have you join us in our development. But first, here is our vision. This is who we are, and this is who we want to be. Read it, and ignore it at your peril." Wow, what a statement of confidence and unity. And so, this is the Placencia Peninsula today. It's not just a beautiful place on a postcard anymore. It's a community that looked a pretty threatening future right in the eye and chose to define its own path. A community armed with a story, a plan, and a powerful, shared voice. It really leaves us with this final, powerful question to think about. In a world that's so full of outside investment and top-down planning, the story of Placencia shows us the immense power of a community that comes together to write its own story. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What could your community achieve if you all just agreed on the story you wanted to tell?